Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another PFL fight prediction video. In this video, I'll be predicting the full card of fights for PFL World Tournament 2025. Main event, Phil Davis versus Rob Wilkinson, or Davis versus Wilkinson, or round two, round this, whatever they want to call it. But yeah, you get the gist of it. I'm predicting the full card of fights. So yeah, let's just get right to it. First fight on the card, we got in the alternate bout. We got in the light heavyweight division. We got Alex Paley versus Raphael Xavier. And how do I feel about this one right here? I'm going low confidence Paley to beat Xavier. Paley should be the better overall fighter here. Xavier really just has a puncher's chance. And I think Paley has been mostly durable. He's been getting stopped a lot lately. Not a lot, but a bit lately. So that's a concern. That's why confidence is low. But yeah, he should be able to mix up the striking and grappling, primarily the grappling. Still has that insane cardio, still has that insane pace. And should be able to grind out Xavier to a decision. So yeah, not a great confidence here, but Paley should have, should be the better fighter in this. Really, the real concern is just the puncher's chance or that KO chance. But Paley should, again, the people that have TKO Paley have been much better fighters. Like with Romero, I think was one person that TKO'd him, and that took a while. And the former PFL World Tournament champion, what's his name? But anyway, elite competition, not just anybody. So I think he'll be fine here. So Alex Paley, I'm gonna say his name like Alec. His name is Alex. So in this one, I have Alex Paley via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the heavyweight division, we got Rodrigo Nasimento versus Abraham Babley. And going low confidence, Rodrigo Nasimento, never been a trustworthy fighter, to be honest. But I'm picking to beat Babley. Babley is a pretty decent fighter. Just has not fought the best competition. Pretty small for the weight class. But yeah, he could be a danger. But I'm going to respect the guy who has been fighting much better competition. Babley has only fought like realistically one decent fighter and lost that fight. And maybe one okay fighter and won that fight. So he hasn't really been fighting decent competition. Nasimento has been fighting, pretty much decent competition. Like everybody in the UFC is at least decent. Babley has, outside of one win, that's you barely can even say is that even a decent win. You can't even say you couldn't even really say that any of Babley's wins have been UFC level. You could say his one loss was to a fighter that probably would be UFC level, but his wins, you can't say none of his wins are UFC level. Nasimento has had several wins in the UFC, several losses, but he at least was able to stay in the UFC for years and years. The truer heavyweight. Better submission grappler, but again, tight matchup. Babley could use his smaller frame to be quicker and land shots. It just ends up being one of those ugly fights and Nasimento gasses. It could easily be that fight. Or Babley's able to catch him like an overhand and Nasimento gets starts. It could easily be that fight. So I'm not putting no great confidence in Nasimento, but I do trust his experience in the UFC. He was evolving and striking a bit. He doesn't have to worry about Babley's wrestling so much. I think he'll be able to do a good job of defending the takedowns of Babley, getting up. Babley's a very small heavyweight. So I think he'll do a good job of that. And more so, the small frame and speed in a Babley that's probably going to cause him issues, or could cause him issues. But I think Nasimento will be able to use his size, throw his shots, throw his flurries, get a hold of him, and lock him up. Maybe score some takedowns. Or just try to wall install him so he can't use his movement as much. But not expecting the prettiest fight from either guy, but Nasimento getting done however he needs to get it done. So in this one, I got Rodrigo Nasimento via decision. Now the next fight we have in the light heavyweight division, we got Sullivan Collie versus Marcelo Nunes. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going Sullivan Collie to beat Marcelo Nunes by low confidence decision here. Marcelo Nunes, what to say about him? Pretty solid BJJ. Decent power, but pretty ugly striking. I think Sullivan Collie is the younger, bigger man. Should be able to neutralize the grappling. As far as he don't allow Nunes to get a hold of him, and I think Collie will be able to dictate where his fight takes place with his grappling. But and I think he can neutralize the submissions of Nunes as long as he is on top. And I think again with his wrestling advantage, his youth advantage, his size advantage, I think he should be able to do that. If he wants to keep it striking, he can do that. If he wants to go for a takedown, he can do that. And did he pretty much just avoid the big shots and don't allow Nunes to get a top position on you. And I think he can do that. And I see him getting a decision victory over Marcelo Nunes. And I think he'll definitely have learned a lot from his one loss to another bright young prospect in his one loss he does have. And I think he'll have shown development and growth for that one and be able to look good here and get a decision victory over the older man. So I think Collie's like 29-30, Nunes like 35-36. So I think Collie's in a good position to show growth and beat a pretty limited fighter in Nunes. So in this one, I have Sullivan Collie via decision. So what is like 3 decisions so far? Next fight we have in the heavyweight division, we got Linton Vassell versus Oleg Popoff. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going high confidence Oleg Popoff to beat Linton Vassell. Yeah, Vassell is always dangerous, but Oleg Popoff has shown durability, shown great cardio, shown solid wrestling. Much younger fighter here. I think he'll be able to control this fight and grind out Vassell to a decision. Like, Vassell is just too up there in age, and Popoff should be able to just grind him out and get a decision victory over Vassell. So, in this one, I got Oleg Popoff via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the heavyweight division, we got Alexander Romanov versus Tim Johnson. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going average confidence Romanov to beat Johnson. Romanov is right in his prime. He was unrightfully cut from the UFC. I mean, he's boring and he wasn't going to go nowhere, but he could still stuck around and be like a top 15, maybe heavyweight, like low top 15, and just been like a journeyman. And then the fighters that did belong there could have ran through him, but he could have been a decent filter type thing. You can't get past Romanov, you have no business being ranked, basically. That's where he could have been at. That's the spot he could have been at. And maybe he could develop it and win a little bit further, but his ceiling was pretty much mapped out. But there's plenty of fighters that don't belong in the UFC, that are still in the UFC, and that are boring and just holding spots, especially in like these other weight classes. But anyway, it is what it is. He's over here now. Romanov versus Johnson. Johnson is up there in age. Romanov is in his prime. He was looking pretty good. His strike has been improving. His cardio has been improving. And I'll say first round TKO for Romanov. I think he'll be able to get a big explosive takedown, get Johnson on the ground and pound him, and get him out in the first. Yeah, Johnson is old and weathered, and Romanov is smack dab in his prime. Maybe not the most impressive, but definitely a much better spot here. I think he'll be able to dominate and get it done early. So in this one, I have Alexander Romanov via first round TKO. Now on to our next fight we have in the light heavyweight division. We got Carl Brexen versus Simeon Powell. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going low confidence Simeon Powell to beat Carl Brexen. And this is a funny matchup. They're pretty much like mirror images of each other. You got like an awkward, long white guy versus an awkward, long black guy. Awkward, long black striker versus an awkward, long white grappler. Yeah, they might as well be brothers from other parents. Might as well. But go Simeon Powell here. He got a little bit better momentum. He's awkward and weird, but it's not like Brexen has ever really shown any decent striking. I think Simeon Powell has shown some decent grappling, defense, and grappling offense. I think he can address the grappling of Brexen in a probably weird fight. I said this be a weird fight where they're both having success and stuff. A lot of weird scrambles, a lot of weird striking exchanges. But ultimately, Simeon Powell able to find a shot over the top, cracks out Brexen, drops him, and finishes him off mid to late second round. But a weird, awkward fight. Can't put a whole lot of confidence in it. Only confidence I will put in this fight that it will look goofy. But Simeon Powell will get his hand raised, so low confidence Simeon Powell to get it done. Second round TKO. So in this one, I got Simeon Powell via second round TKO. Now to our next fight, we have in the light heavyweight division, we got Antonio Carlos Jr. versus Carl Moore. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going low confidence Carl Moore to beat Antonio Carlos Jr. Both solid grapplers. Carlos Jr. might need a better offensive takedowns, but I think Carl Moore will be the hungrier fighter. I think he'll do a good job to get back to his feet, threaten with submissions, and be more active on his feet. And it's really the thing I think this is going to make the difference in this fight. I just think Carl Moore is more hungry. I feel like I've been seeing a hunger in Carlos Jr. Gasek has been looking pretty terrible in all his fights, even his wins. And I just think Carl Moore, Jr. won the tournament. He got that $1 million before they started cutting it in half. And I just don't think the hunger is there anymore, or as much. And I think Carl Moore is definitely much hungrier, just his game, and definitely a lot more hungry. And I think that will be everything. And I'll say Carl Moore outgrinds him to a decision, just, having more work. I think that's what it comes down. I think they match up pretty evenly, but Carl Moore will be giving more, wanting more, pushing more, and that will make the difference in a close fight. Could be a split decision, but probably a unanimous decision. But in a fight that Carlos Jr. clearly just fades. So in this one, I got Carl Moore via decision. So that's one knock or two knocks. So it hasn't been all decisions for me. Next fight we have in the heavyweight division, we got Valentin Maldowski versus Sergey Bilistini. And how do I feel about this one right here? Is I'm going low confidence Sergey Bilistini to beat Valentin Maldowski. And Maldowski has definitely been a potential man. Like, the potential man. Good build, strong, came in the game young. And seemed like he was going to be the future. But has choked every single time out. I'm not saying every single fight. But, every single time he's supposed to rise to the occasion and be this and that, he has choked. This probably should have been, the last tournament should have been his tournament, probably. Nope. When he fought Bader for the heavyweight belt, should have been his time. Nope. Like, guy has choked. And then he went, 1-2 against a 40-year-old Vassell. Yeah, the guy just one of those guys that a lot of potential just never lived up to it and probably will never live up to it. But he's always live. But I go Bilistini here. Seems like the more cleaner, composed, confident fighter. Can address the wrestling. More dynamic striker. Could see a stoppage here. Matter of fact, I'll go with stoppage for Bilistini. Why not? Say a third round TKO for Bilistini. I think Maldowski will be able to keep his respect through the early parts. But I think once Bilistini starts to connect, I think Maldowski will start to, confidence will start to diminish. His pace will start to diminish. Going to be more open, be more on the back foot. I think Bilistini is going to see that, take advantage of that, start to press him and break it down over the course of the fight. And then once Maldowski starts to break down, he's probably going to mentally check out and be looking for a way out. And Bilistini is going to give him that way out. So like a third round TKO, good early start, competitive. But the fight goes on and Bilistini starts to connect more. Maldowski is going to start to look for ways out, and Bilistini is going to give him that way out. So in this one, I got Sergey Bilistini via third round TKO. Now to our main event, we have in the light heavyweight division, we got Phil Davis versus Rob Wilkinson. And how do I feel about this one right here is I'm going average confidence Phil Davis to beat Rob Wilkinson. Phil Davis is the much better wrestler. I would say he's the better overall grappler. They fought in the grappling competition. I would pick Phil Davis to win. Rob Wilkinson might be the more technical, submission-savvy fighter in that sense. But Phil Davis can out-wrestle him all day. He can suplex him in, flying armbar, toss him around like a feather, and control the position in a dominant way. And I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't able to submit him in a pure grappling competition. Phil Davis has always been a durable guy, has one of the better chins in MMA history. That's very underrated. He went in there. I'm not going to go all into his chin history, but the guy has never been, I don't think, even dropped. He has fought some of the heaviest hitters in the game, and chin has held up in age, but still looking young. The only people he's really lost to, really in his whole career, are he hasn't been finished. He hasn't been TKO. He hasn't been sub. And outside, the Rumble Johnson fight wasn't close. But outside that, both Bader fights were very close. I feel he won the last Bader fight. I forget another guy, but that guy's real good. Vadim Nemkov. Both of those fights were extremely close. The Korean fight was extremely close. And that's truly elite light heavyweight competition. Rob Wilkinson has not really even fought a truly elite light heavyweight. You could say, he fought Thiago Santos, but he was juiced up in that fight. Thiago Santos was, had two bad kneecaps after the John Jones fight and obviously wasn't the same Thiago Santos. So he has not fought one truly elite light heavyweight. And then he went in there with like a mediocre light heavyweight who's really a mediocre light heavyweight. And in the grand scheme of things, Josh Xavier is a mediocre light heavyweight. In reality, he's a mediocre middleweight, and you went life and death with him. So Rob Wilkinson, did he win a season? I think he won a season. Yeah, but he has not been fighting truly elite competition. I think Phil Davis should be the better striker here, a better grappler, should be able to dictate where the fight takes place. Be a Phil Davis fight. Awkward, moving around, kick heavy, overhands, blast double legs, and controlling the position of the fight and being able to grind Wilkinson to a decision here. I think Wilkinson will try to pressure, mix the body shots, but Phil Davis is going to be able to duck right under, grab takedowns, defend the submissions, and stay on top and grind them out. But yeah, Phil Davis should be able to land more volume, mix it up more. Definitely should have a huge wrestling advantage. I'm not going to say he has a huge BJJ advantage, but he has a huge wrestling advantage, and he should be able to get it to the ground, dictate what takes place. Only 3 rounds, and should be able to grind him out to a decision here. So in this one, I have Phil Davis via decision. And so that concludes my fight predictions for the full card of fights for PFL 2025 World Tournament, first round, fourth card. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and come back for more videos. Peace.